you thought you had dollars in your bank, and then suddenly they give you worthless pesos.
What you thought it was your money, it was not your money anymore.
Gabriel Kurman and Adrian Eidelman, co-founders of Rootstock.
The Bitcoin sidechain, bringing smart contracts and programmable money to Bitcoin.
We were designing Rootstock to add functionality to Bitcoin. We're building technology with purpose. We were not in love with the technology itself. We were in love with bringing solutions to people.
If you think of Bitcoin as a computer, it's a very old computer. We wanted to build that on Bitcoin, but you didn't have the tools to build on Bitcoin. It was impossible. That's why we decided to build Rootstock. We decided to build the rails for this kind of use cases.
When the fiat system defined certain requirements to operate the banking system, 20 billion people were left out. If you live in the global south, you don't have an address, then you can never pass a KYC. If you are 14 years old and you are a main source of income for your family, or if you're a refugee in another country and you don't have a national ID, you cannot use the banking system.
What's your vision for programmable money built on Rootstock, maybe enabled by stablecoins like USDP? How do you see that going forward in the future?
So
welcome back to another episode of Redefined. I'm Jeremy, your host, and I'm here with two of my very, very good friends that have helped found and build a company called Rootstock. And so I want them both to introduce themselves and a little bit about how they got into the space. And then we're going to talk about, I think, where we're so value aligned over periods. So Gabriel, maybe you can start kind of your background and
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having us. So I'm an economist. We're both from Argentina. So we suffered from direct contact with hyperinflation, capital controls, and all the potential imaginable problems that a fiat system can have. And when I learned about Bitcoin, it really opened my eyes. Especially, it taught me a lot about the fiat problems. Right? I understood why we had inflation for the first time. I learned more about economics in the first conference that I went than in all my years at university. And I understood that this technology could really transform our society. Many of the problems that we see in the world are related to the failures of money and the flaws that it has in the system. So it really opened my eyes. We've known each other for many years. We went to high school together.
What?
Yeah.
Just 10 years ago.
More or less.
Probably 12.
But just randomly, life put us together with this project. It's worth mentioning that Rootstock is not a company. It's an open protocol. Right? It's an open source protocol that it was so clear for us why it needed to exist. When we understood the value of Bitcoin as gold 2.0, as an anchor to the illimited amount of fiat that can be created. But it was kind of limited in its functionality. Right? There were no smart contracts, no possibility to create microloans or DeFi applications. And when we learned that this was going to be built separated from Bitcoin, it just didn't make sense for us. We were really pushing to Bitcoin adoption in terms of education and community building. And it was actually a very interesting conversation that we had with Szabo in Silicon Valley in a random interaction. And he told us, you guys, been working on Bitcoin for such a long time, and you know Sergio Lerner, who is our co-founder and technical expert. Why don't you guys build a smart contract platform on Bitcoin? And that really resonated with us. We understood that Gold 2.0 was extremely important, but like not enough for the problems that we had in Latin America, in Africa, and the emerging markets. So we felt compelled to fulfill that objective. And we've been building this technology for 11 years now.
So you guys started in high school?
Yeah, that's true. A little bit more than 10 years ago, but not that long ago. I come from a more technical background, right? Like a software engineer. And I got to understand Bitcoin after talking with Gabriel. He's very convincing when he talks. But as he was saying, it really makes sense for us coming from Argentina. We are like a group of 5 founders, all coming from Buenos Aires. And it's really obvious to anyone coming from Argentina that Bitcoin makes a lot of sense, right? So, but Gabriel was the one that introduced me with a very nice speech about what he was doing back in the day. That was around 2014, probably.
Yeah.
And that's when we got together with the rest of the founders, all in Argentina, and we decided to build Rootstock. Of course, after several conversations we had until it's the shape of what we wanted to build came up. But we've suffered ourselves from a lot of issues with the, let's say, traditional banking system. So it really made sense for us to build on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a number of people on here, some of them are friends like Leo and others, that it's hard to imagine what inflation was like in Argentina a decade ago or so. And so it was naturally, I think at some point Argentina was the fastest growing country in Bitcoin usage around that point. So I think your crew probably had earlier visibility into the original use cases of Bitcoin before most people in Silicon Valley or others, because there was like real and raw need,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think those of us who are from the cypherpunk days and the kind of early cryptography would know who Nick is. But maybe explain a little bit of, like, before we get into Rootstock as a group, like what the origins of smart contracts were and the conversations with Nick, and why you started thinking that just having Bitcoin on the monetary side, even in Argentina, where that alone was a big deal, why there was more to do. Like, how did you get to this notion around smart contracts and sort of additional services on top of Bitcoin?
Yeah, so basically Sergio has a very nice way to explain what a smart contract is, because it's a difficult word to understand.
Yeah.
He says that basically smart contracts are programmable money.
Mm-hmm.
You can put business rules programmed into money. You can just ask that money to do whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this opens endless possibilities.
Yeah.
You can design what you dream it, and you can build it.
Yeah.
And that has also the potential to make it extremely efficient. So you can have microloans, you can have prediction markets, you can have weather insurance solutions. So we understood that having gold 2.0 or Bitcoin as this monetary anchor with its scarcity was extremely important. As you said, when you have an absolute failing financial system, you understand the value of Bitcoin easier than when you have a financial system that works almost perfectly for everyone, like you have here in the US. But at the same time, we understood that having gold 2.0 was extremely necessary, but was not enough to solve the problems that you have in the emerging world.
Yeah.
You needed to have crowdfunding solutions, microloans, nanotransactions. We didn't think about agents, as we're gonna talk in a little bit, but we still thought that a poor woman in Nepal needed to do micropayments, and we understood that the on-chain fees were going to be higher and higher over time. So basically, Nick Szabo is the one mentioned in the white paper as one of the three people quoted there. Many say that he's Satoshi. I don't believe so, but he's definitely inspired. He definitely inspired Satoshi, and he's the one that came up with this concept of smart contracts or programmable money.
Yeah, and his work, actually, his cryptographic, some of his work was actually predated Satoshi, right? Which is makes him so interesting. Yeah,
exactly. So by the time I had this random conversation with him, the Ethereum white paper was written at the time. Yeah. The network was not launched, but Sergio, he was finding Bitcoin vulnerabilities. I think 6 or more of the most important Bitcoin vulnerabilities were found by Sergio and reported to the US Bitcoin Foundation at the time. And also, before launching Ethereum, Sergio's company was one of the 3 official audits of the Ethereum code. So Nick was kind of frustrated that his dream of programmable money was being launched separated from Bitcoin. And looking back now, I see like a lot of similarities to the fiat system, where you have the gold anchor completely detached from fiat money that's basically endless and limitless. So this architecture of having a DeFi ecosystem, not even mentioning proof of stake, and just detaching it from the physical world of proof of work, kind of didn't make sense. So at the time, we were not thinking on how to build a Bitcoin layer 2 or come up with a new business. We were really concerned that, if we were going to offer programmable financial services to the unbanked people of the world, we had the responsibility to offer them something that was going to be permissionless and was not going to be censored. So we believed that Bitcoin was the only infrastructure that could allow us that level of censorship resistant and protection and security.
I want to hold on that for a minute, because I think that is not, even in the tech community, that's not well understood. I remember in the early days, and you'd say something like the word blockchain, and they'd go, well, which blockchain? And then they'd kind of look at them like they just did different things. So it's like, well, Bitcoin's digital gold, and Ethereum is a smart contract infrastructure, and then maybe Solana's faster, right? And they kind of look at them as equal and alternative competition. And you're making a really important point, which is, if those other things live on infrastructure that maybe doesn't match the monetary policy, and isn't censorship resistant and decentralized and open, maybe that's problematic. So maybe can you unpack a little bit more of that? Because I think most people would just go about and go, okay, well, who cares what blockchain it's on? But you guys care what blockchain it's on.
Absolutely. You don't need to be a cypherpunk to understand that there are certain things that even if you don't like your neighbor or you don't like the counterparty, it's good that we all share. We are happy to make sure that everyone can breathe. So we like air to be equal, right? Even
you mean you shouldn't regulate air?
Exactly.
Okay.
Even your enemies, you want them to be able to breathe, and then if there's something, well, we will figure it out with them. And we have the legal system. We have different methods to dispute and to resolve our disputes. But like access to water, access to air, access to financial systems. Right? When you make money a policy control, then you might like the current person in charge, but you might not like the next one. Right? And that opens the door to all kind of Orwellian things.
Right.
So,
which you had I think a closer view of in Argentina, where there was times it was thriving and then not thriving, and then maybe change again, that I'm sure we'll get into. But this notion that everything is static in your regime is actually a very quaint thought, but we realize in the Bitcoin ecosystem, actually, financial services can change overnight, whether it's the 2008 financial crisis, whether it's a trucker dispute in Canada. There's a lot of areas where freedom of your monetary system is super important. And you have to use that as a baseline for anything else you're going to build on top of, right?
And to your point, Jeremy, when everyone talks about Argentina and inflation, actually there were like even bigger problems than that. Actually, one of the most impactful episodes that we were already grown-ups to understand is basically people with their money in their bank accounts from one day to the other one, they could not access that money anymore. And it was not like one friend or one relative, it was everyone. That's why.
Wait. So as the American who like understands only a broad brush of Argentinian history, like what happened? Explain that.
Corralito, we call it Corralito,
with
capital controls. So basically, the corrupt government at the time was just pushing debt to the banks. So you were depositing your money there, but that money was not being lent to businesses. It was just lent to the government that was basically broken. So when people wanted to take their money back, there was no money in the banks. So they just shut it down. And maybe you thought you had dollars in your bank, and then suddenly they give you worthless pesos.
You could not even go to the bank and take your money out. So what you thought it was your money, it was not your money anymore, right?
What happens socially at that point? So I imagine if you go to the bank account and you think you have X dollars in your bank that you've spent 10 years, 20 years of your adult working life saving, and then you can't access it.
Exactly.
What was the...
No, and then they devalue the currency 40% overnight. They defaulted on their national debt. They closed basically all the capital markets. So if you had a business, you couldn't get any lending or any loans for your business. And this is like the 2001 episode. But over our lifetimes and our parents' lifetimes, this happened so many times. Like I think in the last 70 years, we had 5 different Argentine pesos, and they took out 13 zeros from the currency. So it's, we've seen this so many times that for us it was, and the same thing happens to the Venezuelans, right? Any country that suffered hyperinflation, we understand Bitcoin very quickly.
And because of that, because again, I think people might equate them the same. Given that background, why did you come to the conclusion Bitcoin was hyper resistant to that, but maybe other blockchains that might be faster or more programmable? Because that's a little bit also, I think, of the tech narrative is, well, it's got these other properties, so it's fine. Why did Bitcoin, you guys uniquely go, no, only this is hyper vigilant against some of the things that you guys were concerned about as what you saw in your own society?
Well, many people get confused believing that if it is in a blockchain, is something that is better than in a centralized server.
Right.
Actually, the architecture of a blockchain is very inefficient.
Right.
Because if you have the same information replicated in 20 different servers,
it's a bad database.
It's a bad database. It's super inefficient, and also you have 20 additional backdoors to get hacked. So the revolutionary discovery of Bitcoin is not the blockchain, is that the decentralization of the blockchain, what it's key for the censorship-resistant, the neutrality, and the impossibility to spend twice that same amount of money.
It's maximally decentralized is the central feature.
Exactly, exactly. The blockchain and the replication of that database in thousands of computers is the painful thing that we have to do to ensure the characteristics of the network. There's something that really opened my eyes back in the day, is that when I understood that in the old internet, value didn't flow through the network. And I was like, yes, of course, I can pay with a credit card, I can operate online banking. I said, no, but only information flows on the web 2.0. Because for the value, you can take a picture of a bill and you spend it multiple times. So no one gives value to any digital asset before Bitcoin. And you could tell your bank to make a wire transfer face to face over the phone through a keyboard, but there was always someone, a credit card, a bank, a fintech, just doing a registry on their centralized database and asking someone on the other side of the world to credit something that they debited here.
But worse than that, there is someone that needs to say, okay, you can do this. Right? So you need to get the authorization from someone to transfer your money. So that's something that's Bitcoin changed, right? Like it's the first time that you can send money almost instantly, like over long distances. You don't need someone to say, okay, you can do this.
And this is very important because if you're in the US, maybe, that's okay for you. But if you live in the global south and you live in a slum and you don't have an address, then you can never pass a KYC.
Right.
Or if you are 14 years old and you are a main source of income for your family, you cannot use the banking system because someone said that under 18 you cannot work, even if your family lives and needs that for a living. Or if you're a refugee, or if you are in another country and you don't have a national ID. So when the fiat system defined certain requirements to operate in the banking system, like 20 billion people were left out.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly unfair. But, they needed so little money, or they were not interesting consumers for the system. So they were left out.
Right.
And no one cared. It was like collateral damage.
Right.
And for ourselves, coming from Argentina, understanding that 20% of everyone in Latin America is unbanked, and how important having access to microloans is. How much a business depends on having credit. Imagine for a poor family.
Right.
So we dream with a world where the conditions were equal to everyone, and the access was equal to everyone. We thought that financial system could create a better and more equal society in the same way that everyone has access to oxygen and to water.
Yep.
So that was the dream. And if you do something that is illegal somewhere, then the solution will get shut down.
Yeah.
So we needed a financial system that was neutral, that was available to everyone, so humanity can be connected in the same way that we are connected through the internet. And you want everyone to be able to express their thoughts, even if you do not agree with them. We thought that the internet of value that Bitcoin was opening to the world was super important to build a more equal and fair society.
Totally. And so on its own, Bitcoin is maybe the most important invention of our lifetime, if not since maybe electricity. But in the early days, and we kind of got started in somewhat similar timeframes, 2010, 2011, innovators want to innovate. And so people were building on top of all of this stuff. And I remember in those early days, there was like color coins that were trying to make Bitcoin, useful in different ways. And there was these kind of different projects that were coming out. And then, those projects started forking off of Bitcoin. And you guys came to a different conclusion, which was because Bitcoin was such an important neutral monetary baseline that you wanted to build infrastructure on top of Bitcoin. And so walk me through a little bit of like how you think about smart contracts in layer twos. Like what is a layer two and what are the capabilities that you thought became unlocked if you not created a different blockchain, but instead actually use that incredible monetary neutral censorship-resistant base to then build a new economic system?
Yep.
Yeah. So, we discussed about that Bitcoin is what we think is a place to build the new financial system. But as you said before, or you, Gaku, said, if you think of Bitcoin as a computer, it's a very old computer, right? It can do very little things. Like I'm just simplifying here, but you can transfer money and that's it, right? And that's what created the space for other technologies to emerge, right? Yeah. Whether that's Ethereum or whatever crypto project you can think of, right? Why? Because Bitcoin is, it's slow. Yeah. You cannot have fast transactions. You cannot have privacy. You cannot have business logic or programmable money, as Gabriel was saying before. But in our thinking, it didn't make sense to build separately from Bitcoin, right? Actually, maybe Gabriel remembers better than me. One of the few things we were discussing back in the days was not about building a Bitcoin layer that we can cover in a minute. We were thinking about stable coins and other things that were needed, right? Because as we said, Bitcoin was super relevant in places like Argentina, But of course, the volatility and everything, it doesn't make too much sense to a lot of people, right? So probably stablecoins are much more relevant. And we wanted to build that on Bitcoin, but you didn't have the tools to build on Bitcoin, right? It was impossible. It was very limited. So that's why we decided to build Rootstock. We decided to build the rails for this kind of use cases to be built on Bitcoin. But I think it was not our first idea, right?
So what I would say is the reason why Bitcoin is so limited in its programmability and functionality is by design.
Yes.
Right? Because you want this thing to be like a rock, to be unstoppable. And for that, you need decentralization.
And you don't want your money upgraded all the time, right? Like,
exactly.
There's a risk in that. You actually want safety and security in your money.
Yes, and also you want the nodes to be very light, so you can have thousands of nodes around the world. As soon as you start building functionality on the base layer, the nodes become heavier.
Yes.
And that means that you cannot run it on a Raspberry Pi and you suddenly need a massive data center, which is what happens in many of the other blockchains that actually most of the validators are in an Amazon Web Service.
Right.
So they immediately become neutral anymore.
There's a joke that if the blockchain goes down when Amazon goes down, how decentralized is that blockchain?
And also the higher the complexity, the higher or it's much more difficult to keep it safe and secure, right? So it's true, like I said, like Bitcoin is kind of an old machine, but it wants to be an old computer. It doesn't want to be something else, right?
And as Adrian was saying, we were not like in love with the technology itself. We were in love with just bringing solutions to people, right? So we always had that in mind. I remember when we were drawing the first ideas that we said we're building technology with purpose. So it's not that we wanted to build this. It's that we felt that given that we had the knowledge, we had the responsibility. I remember feeling that I used to work in private equity. I come from the fiat finance world. And this was the first time in my professional life that I thought I can do something to make a little contribution to build a better world. So I think this is what have us here after so many years, still with the same passion about building and having friends and Bitcoin builders jumping along and agreeing with us that this is the right infrastructure to build the financial system of the future. So rewarding. I would say that.
So what can maybe as we like segue into some of the stuff you guys did build, just to level set, I don't think everyone knows what a layer 2 is. So again, I think maybe in our inside baseball, it's like kind of obvious, but outside, I think the general view is there's Bitcoin, which is stable, a big asset, digital gold, but slow, doesn't change. And then there's other things. But actually, a layer 2 was one of, I think, the first original innovations on how to be able to solve that we could continue to innovate while also respect what the original sort of constraints Satoshi put in the original sort of code base. And so what is a layer 2 and what does it sort of open up the realms of possibility to the stuff you guys are been building?
Yeah, so I would say Bitcoin layer 2 is a very broad definition, and many projects call themselves layer 2s, and we can just discuss forever whether they are or not. But I would say that it's any technology or any blockchain that somehow is built on top of Bitcoin and somehow connected with Bitcoin. But the case of Rootstock is quite unique in the ecosystem. It's a specific type of layer 2 that we call sidechain. And the reason why it is a sidechain is because the native currency of this secondary layer that is built on top of Bitcoin is Bitcoin. So many layer 2s have their own token and somehow have a competing digital currency that competes with Bitcoin. We were designing Rootstock to add functionality to Bitcoin. So for us, it was obvious that the native currency had to be Bitcoin.
Right.
So if anyone in the audience owns Bitcoin, Rootstock is already making them richer, or it's already aligned with economic incentives with Bitcoiners, even if they don't use Rootstock.
Before we get into the Rootstock side, though, I want to unpack that, because again, that's another thing that's not the hardcore Bitcoiner understands this. But why is a alternate token maybe not good for humanity or society? Like, why have we learned, for those of us who've been in the space for a long time, that, you know, having these other tokens that are sort of connected but not connected, like, what is this incentive misalignment that many of us have come to the conclusion, like, that's generally a bad thing? Like, why did you guys say Bitcoin only?
Well, that, like, we could talk about Austrian economics and where the value theory and what value is coming from. Value comes from supply and demand, and what service is that asset serving, right? So where is the value of Bitcoin or any other token coming from? From supply and demand. So first of all, Bitcoin has a fixed supply that it will always be fixed. Like in the case of Ethereum, for example, the monetary policy has changed several times, right? So one discussion is on the supply side. We come from countries with infinite money supply, as most of the fiat currencies in the world. So understanding the supply side is very important. But then also you have the demand side. So where is the value of Bitcoin and the demand of Bitcoin coming from, or any other asset? Is from the services that this technology is providing to the world. So if you have an internet of money that can enable you to transfer money across the globe to any person in this planet, and if you add agents on top of that, then you have a permanent growing demand for that token, which is the asset that is moving through this network. So the combination of the neutrality and decentralization that Bitcoin offers to the world is what makes this permanent demand. That is what sustains the value of Bitcoin. I don't think there's any other technology or any other token in the world that can provide or give that level of certainty, especially if you are offering this to an unbanked person that doesn't know anything about technology. I don't feel comfortable in offering anything else than Bitcoin, because the neutrality of this network, this internet of value that enables you to move value from one corner to the world to the other in a second, only Bitcoin can provide.
Well, and I think there's a really important nuance in that, which is the neutrality of Bitcoin is partly enabled because it's maximally decentralized both in the network and the ownership. If another token is spun up by a founder, human incentive might make it so that the monetary policy can change just as the government changes it. And one of the unique properties of immaculate conception of Bitcoin is that can't be changed because it's quite enshrined and there's not a way to change it. So you can't have, human natural tendencies towards corruption. And so, it may be that is a unique property in history. And so let's get maybe into what Rootstock actually is. So it's a layer 2 pegged on Bitcoin that does what?
So like the easiest way to explain it is that anything you can do in an EVM or Turing complete smart contract platform, anything that you can build on Ethereum or any of the other EVM compatible layers, you can build it on Rootstock. And actually we made it super easy, because I remember we were going to DEF CON and seeing these incredible conferences with thousands of developers. As you were saying, like, people were kind of pushed out from Bitcoin because there was no much you could do with Bitcoin. And all the developers and all the engineers wanted to build so many creative stuff, and they were forced to use other networks that were not as secure, that were not as decentralized, but that was the only option. So when we designed Rootstock, we said, let's make it as easy as possible for them to whatever technologies and solutions they are building, they can also secure them on top of Bitcoin infrastructure. So this is the first thing, is completely compatible with anything that you do on Ethereum. The smart contracts run on Solidity, thinking in those developers. So we didn't want to create a new language. We didn't want to create any complexities. It's like, okay, this is the standard. Let's make sure that these can also run on top of Bitcoin. The second pillar, I would say, is that Bitcoin is the native currency. So anything that you do build in the Rootstock DeFi ecosystem uses Bitcoin as native currency. So I think one of the most popular assets in other networks is a wrapped Bitcoin, right? So you need a centralized provider that holds those Bitcoin and issues them on a secondary layer. Well, this is native in Rootstock, right? So you have a bridge, which is the most secure bridge in the space. There's a new one, an even better version coming soon. It's called the Union Bridge. And it's secure by also proof of work. So we call this the POPEG. It's the most secure way to move Bitcoin from the base layer to the upper layer back and forth. And the third pillar, which is super important, and Rootstock is the only layer 2 and the only sidechain that offers this, is that the consensus of the network is secured by Bitcoin proof of work through a process called merged mining. So the mining pools are integrated, and with the same hardware and with the same electricity that they are spending, they can secure both layers. And 80% of the fees generated on Rootstock go to those mining pools. So it's like having the secondary layer increasing the security budget of Bitcoin in the first layer. And Adrian is the architect and the one that has been doing this for the last 8 years. And how much hashing power do we have right now?
So it's around 85% of Bitcoin hash rate.
So you understand, it's like 85% of the total Bitcoin hash rate is also secured.
Can you give context for those like who aren't in the mining space? How much 85% of the Bitcoin hash rate? What does that mean?
So currently the hash rate of the Bitcoin network is around 1,000 exahashes. So that means that
what's that 1,000 exahash like
in terms of machines?
It's
like
insanity, right?
I don't know, but it's
maybe next to, I think there's some debate on whether the 2 frontier models are maybe surpassed, but otherwise, outside of the 2 or 3 largest AI models, it's the largest supercomputer in the world, right? So you guys are 85% of the hash rate, the largest supercomputer in the world.
That's huge.
Okay, so just that.
But I want to go one step backwards about what Rootstock can do. Gabriel mentioned this before. With Bitcoin you can transfer money, and that's it. It's not exactly like that, but let's simplify. With smart contracts technology, you can add behavior to that transfer of money, right? So when we talk about the financial system of the future, you need to be able to build financial services that doing that on Bitcoin, natively on Bitcoin main chain, you cannot do that, right? Talking about lending and borrowing, accounts, or getting a little bit more
smart treasuries, prediction markets,
whatever.
Programmable insurance, anything you can dream of, you can just program it into the smart contract.
So you can code the money, right? That's what a network like Rootstock can do, right? So when you transfer money, that transaction can include code in it to make it simple, right? It's a little bit more complex than that, but I think that's a super powerful thing. But we wanted that to be enabled on Bitcoin.
And I think a nuance when you describe programmable money and this idea of a supercomputer that's decentralized and you can build agentic things and next-gen infrastructures, the alternative, it seems like in other layers, would be either to run a company that does that, and the company gets paid to build that infrastructure, or most of the other blockchains, somebody pre-mines a bunch of things, gets rich, maybe rug pulls, and the incentives are misaligned because of that other token. But you guys chose merge mining as a way to incentivize the network to use that. And so you started off saying Rootstock's not even a company. So what is Rootstock then? Organizationally, as a protocol, as a technology, like how do I think about this unique entity you guys dreamed up?
Yeah, so Rootstock is a centralized protocol, and this is the only way a global system could work. Unless you think that the US will have its own financial system with provided by local companies, abiding local regulations, and China will have their own financial system, and Russia will have its own, and Argentina will have to choose which one to participate, and we have this completely broken financial system, or we dream with an architecture similar to the internet, where you can use your provider, your local provider, you follow local regulations, but we all in the same global infrastructure. So there's a network effect that makes sense for everyone to be in this global network. So it has to be neutral, it has to be apolitical, so everyone can participate and no one can get censored at the base layer, at the infrastructure layer. So this is the architecture of Rootstock, and this is why it's secured by Bitcoin mining, which is decentralized all around the world. It's permissionless. You can mine in Mongolia, you can mine in Argentina, you can mine in Paraguay, in the US, and everyone can participate. And this is permissionless. No one can tell you, I don't like you, you cannot participate. Then you have Rootstock Labs, which is a non-for-profit foundation that is building the technology along with other partners. And then you have this decentralized ecosystem of builders. Many of them are getting really excited in the last couple of years about Rootstock, because for many years, Bitcoiners thought, if you wanted to innovate, if you wanted to build something, you had to choose another blockchain, and that was not immutable, that was non-neutral, that there were someone having a pre-mine on the token, so all kind of economic problems there. But now, for the first time, many Bitcoiners are discovering that they can build and innovate and dream on solutions that are built on a neutral infrastructure.
So, I mean, it excites me as partly, I wanted to see a different financial system built, and Bitcoin was the beginning of that journey. But there's so much to do, right? To reinvent so much of what's broken, so much that's unfair. Two that I want to maybe dive into in the kind of final section here is stablecoins and AI. Because you actually had mentioned, Adrian, like one of the original use cases you saw was stablecoins. So kind of how do you see where stablecoins can be built on top of Rootstock, but then connected to Bitcoin, and like what the interplay in your mind is around some of the things that get built on Rootstock?
Yeah, I mentioned at the beginning that stablecoins were one of the things that we were thinking about, because one of the real needs in places like Argentina and other places in Latin America, it's you need like a stablecoin, right? Like you cannot ask the people to deal with the volatility of Bitcoin, right? So going back to this idea of a smart contract layer, one of the things that you can do is basically create tokens, right? And in this case, with the characteristic of US dollar, for example. So that's one of the main use cases. Well, we talk about Argentina because that's where we come from, but I'm pretty sure this happens in Africa, in other places, in Asia as well, right? So stablecoins is one of the biggest use cases we have in the crypto space.
Stablecoin providers that are out there today are largely not connected to Bitcoin. So like how do you guys see where you'd want stablecoins connected to Bitcoin, whether they're dollar backed or they're Bitcoin backed? I think you guys are involved in some projects, right, that are looking at both of those. But in both cases, maybe you have a point of view on why you want the stablecoin on a Bitcoin network and not on the network that 99% of the other stablecoins are currently residing on.
Stablecoins have proven to be extremely useful in emerging markets as a medium of exchange because, as Adrian was saying, the volatility of Bitcoin can be very tricky for daily transactions. They have helped reduce intermediary fees incredibly
Yeah.
for remittances, to send money across the globe, to reduce credit card fees for merchants. There are multiple designs of stablecoins. You have some stablecoins which are more permissionless with collateral in Bitcoin. There's one built on Rootstock that is very interesting, but it's not that capital efficient.
Yeah.
And then you have regulated, unregulated stablecoins. But I always wonder why we as Bitcoiners would use a stablecoin that is running on a network that is not as secure or not as robust as Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like in Argentina, many of the users are using other networks that just are owned by one guy.
Yeah.
So what's the point of using a blockchain when it could be just a centralized service?
Yeah.
So having stable coins on Rootstock secured by Bitcoin hashing power and the Bitcoin network, I think it's extremely important. As we said, we have, so Tether is available on Rootstock, but not deployed natively. So it's deployed on other networks and that transfer into Rootstock. We have money on chain, which is the decentralized one with Bitcoin collateral. And we're super happy to have USDB too, which is the first regulated stable coin deployed natively on Rootstock, which is huge news for the whole ecosystem. Everybody's super excited about this solution, and I think it could bring a lot of value to the whole ecosystem. And also, every time you're using a stablecoin on top of Rootstock, you're adding value to the Bitcoin network.
Yes.
Because every transaction that is done on Rootstock, 80% of those fees go to the Bitcoin miners.
Right.
The remaining 20% is just used to maintain the infrastructure and keep on building the roadmap. But the largest part of it is just goes directly to the security budget of Bitcoin. So every time you use USDB, you're actually helping the Bitcoin network and the miners.
So cool, because it brings incentive alignment, whether you're using a money on chain and you're using a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin on Rootstock, or you're using something like USDB. The whole goal is the networks and everyone that's participating in the network are realigned and incentivized to actually participate and grow the global computer, which is incredible. I think one of the most exciting use cases for stablecoins is both a bridge towards Bitcoin as one area. And then the other area I think that's extremely exciting is this idea of programmable money, which is what you guys started with in the first place. But now, a decade plus later, we have Agentic AI, which is on the tip of everyone's tongue. And so now we have an actual need for programmable money. And so what's your vision for programmable money, agentic commerce, built on Rootstock, maybe enabled by stablecoins like USDP? Like, how do you see that going forward in the future?
So we discussed this with Sergio, Diego, and the whole team a decade ago, right? We understood that if we were going to be successful as an ecosystem, we were going to need multiple layers of additional scalability. We understood the technical limitations of every single layer and the amount of transactions per second that Bitcoin, the base layer, can process. Then Rootstock, which is multiple times more efficient, still has its limitations. And there was a design roadmap of scalability. But then AI came. And that just broke every single idea on the dashboard, right? So there are rollups, and rollups are part of the Rootstock roadmap. But for agentic, we need to go like 100x the amount of scalability. There are not other networks that can be robust enough, maintaining the decentralization and the neutrality. So we have some partners that are working on upper layers on top of Rootstock that will enable 100x more transactions. And that was something that we expected to be ready in a couple of years. And now with this agentic revolution is being speed up, and hopefully we'll see some of that much sooner, because the market is requiring it. And we don't want agents to force the whole ecosystem to centralized solutions, right? That would take us backwards.
Right. And so it's just like stable coins, you want to move towards the decentralized network of Bitcoin. In the agentic world, the same thing. We need to enable that to be possible. I think I watched a study that 70% of all of the frontier models, their own agents prefer Bitcoin, but now they need the infrastructure to do it, whether it's on top of Rootstock or the stablecoins related to it. Maybe the last topic as we roll up is the other side. There's the agent side of the world, the transformation of labor and money. But then hopefully that goes back to human flourishing. So ironically, we didn't meet on business terms or talking technical or economic philosophy, though we could do that over beers all day long. You and I met in a little town in El Salvador with surf shorts on, walking through over humanitarian purposes. So can you talk a little bit about your involvement and your work there? Because going back to the central reason Bitcoin exists in the first place, hopefully is to move humanity forward in meaningful ways. And so I think we're kindred spirits because of that, maybe before any of the rest of this. So let's talk a little bit about your work there and all the incredible work you guys have done in circular economies and
it's beautiful how life takes you full cycle. A decade ago, we started Rootstock together because we wanted to create technology to empower those who need it the most in the world. And 10 years later, as you said, in El Sonte, we were discussing, I created with some other friends this NGO called Bitcoin for Humanity, which gives visibility to projects that are using these open source technologies to improve our society, taking it forward. And this is my passion, and this is why we're building this. And this is why we continue pushing forward. And it is extremely special for me that we connected that way, that we knew each other in this way. The work that you guys are doing with baseline.org is probably the most important thing that you guys are building, and having these synergies and understanding how a business and an NGO and how a technological platform and a social development can go pari passu and just be a win-win for everyone. Yeah. It's like the technologies that we're building for agents can also reduce the cost of nano transactions for poor people in the world. Yeah. So as part of that journey, with Ivan, we wrote a book about Bitcoin circular economies. Yep. That's how we met. You were in every single conference. You were there giving grants from the foundation with Alex too.
Giving your book away, being like, look at all.
So the reason why we wrote this book, which is completely non-for-profit, all the money collected goes back to the circular economies, is because these stories gave us so much hope, right? That a better future and actually an open financial system is possible. And we thought many people do not know these stories. Yeah. They are so powerful, so important. These heroes, these volunteers all around the world are building communities around Bitcoin, explaining, educating about Bitcoin, encouraging merchants to adopt Bitcoin on a peer-to-peer basis, which is also super important, especially when you have governments that are trying to have capital controls and force people into inflationary money. Having this network of peer-to-peer merchants just makes the whole network more anti-fragile. So we decided to dedicate our time to write these stories to inspire new circular economies. I encourage people to, if they want to buy the book, if they just want to listen to it, it's also available for free on Spotify. We say that we don't measure the success of the book on how many copies we sell, but on how many new Bitcoin circular economies we inspire. We're now working on a second book about what's happening in Africa with Bitcoin, the amount of circular economies that are starting in the continent that suffer the problems of fiat money the most. So as we started this conversation, how easy it was to understand the value of Bitcoin when you live in an inflationary country. Well, Africa as a continent understood Bitcoin in the last couple of years, and the adoption, it's exploded in the continent. So I'm very excited about what Bitcoin, the asset, and Bitcoin the infrastructure can bring to the global south. And I would like to take advantage of this moment to appreciate and thank you for all the work that you guys do from paystan.org. It's incredible, and I am super happy to be in this journey with you.
Well, when you meet awesome people that are trying to dent the world, it's a fun journey to do hard work, but it's meaningful. So thank you guys, like genuinely. Every step of the way so far has been really exciting, and it's cool. Like I didn't actually even hear all the story until now, so it's always really special. So where do people who want to know either about Rootstock or Bitcoin for Humanity or the circular economy work or all the other cool stuff that you guys are involved with, because you're touching many things, where do they find out?
Yeah, I will take the Rootstock part, and then basically Rootstock website, rootstock.io. That's a place where developers can learn how to code. People can understand what Rootstock is. So yeah, that's the place to go.
Yeah.
And you can go to beforhumanity.org. That's our website. You can find the book available on Amazon. You can also buy it from Bitcoin Magazine, who has it available. And in Spotify, you can find it for free as an audiobook. Thank you very much for having us in this incredible.
Oh, we love it. All right. Thank you guys, everybody. That's a wrap for this episode. Find us in all those places in YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and wherever else you're streaming this from. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.